Hello everyone and welcome to this presentation. Today we're gonna cover process strategies in operation management for sustainability and supply chain management. And this is part of the industrial engineering program and this is chapter 7. So let's start with our outline. First we're gonna talk about the 4 process strategies that are used for industrial engineering. And then we're gonna discuss the selection of equipment and then the process analysis and design. And then we're going to consider the special considerations for surface process strategies and then production technology services, and process redesign. So here we're going to start with an example of Harley Davidson company. So it's the only major US motorcycle company. It's a major company in the United States, and it emphasizes quality and lean manufacturing. Also, it's a materials as needed system, man, and we're gonna discuss that. Basically, materials as needed system, a system that produces. So it's a system that produces depending on the availability and the need from the um, customers, and the materials are provided as needed for productions. But yeah, for production purposes. And there are many variations that are possible. For every motorcycle, there are many variations, and there is a tightly scheduled repetitive production. So it's a repetitive type of production. We're going to cover all of these types. There are different types and different ways in which we can produce items and materials. So we do have the process flow diagram. First of all, this covers the how is the whole process of producing a motorcycle done, and this is basically, say, a flow diagram, and this it's apparent in the arrows here. So we can start, for example, this go into detail on this and then try to see how a motorcycle is being developed. So first it starts with the frame tube bending, and then it goes to a frame building work cell. Okay, and then frame machining, and this is all for the frame now. And then it goes to hot paint frame painting, and then it goes into the assembly line. So in the assembly line, we then assemble the different parts, the oil tank, the shocks and forks, also the the handlebars, fender work cell, the wheel work cell, fuel tank work cell, fluids and muffles, the air cleaners. All of these are being assembled and added together in the assembly line. And so here we have first the frame, and then it goes to the assembly line, and then also engines and transmissions are added into the assembly line also. So the engines arrives on a jet schedule from a 10 station work cell in Milwaukee. So these engines are not produced by the company itself. They arrive on a GIT schedule. So GIT schedule. Gonna see what is a GIT schedule, and then yeah. So we have after the assembly line, it goes to testing. So there are 28 tests for each motorcycle. That's very important, very crucial, because it's gonna go on the road, and we don't want any errors or issues with the motorcycle, because it's gonna be then detrimental for the user's life. So, and then it goes to roller testing, and that's a different type of testing, roller testing, and then it goes to crating, and then yeah. So it's produced in less than 3 hours, 450 parts, and sub-assemblies go into a Harley motorcycle. So in less than 3 hours, 450 parts and sub-assemblies go into a Harley motorcycle. So can you imagine how fast this should go? 3 hours, 450 parts, and then and you would imagine how many motorcycles you would be able to produce during that time. And so we need to define a process strategy. So a process strategy is basically an organization's approach to transforming resources into goods and services. So that's the way an organization transforms the resources into goods and services. So there are different process strategies. There are strategies for different products, and that's basically makes sense because each product will need a different strategy. Some products will need more customization. Some products are just dull. They are the same, always the same, but just need to be produced in high volume. Others will need to be produced in lower volume, and that's why we have different process strategies. So the objective is to create a process to produce offerings that meet customer requirements within, of course, cost and other managerial constraints. So there are constraints, we need to be within these constraints and also produce offerings that meet customer requirements. And so we need to know how to produce a product or provide a service that meets or exceeds customer requirements. That's very important. If it doesn't meet the customer requirements, then what are we doing with our product? This product will go distinct because no customers are not being satisfied with that product, and also should meet the cost and managerial goals. So we have a sustainable company, not losing money. We need a sustainable company that's profiting always and making profits, and also um, it has long-term effects on efficiency and production flexibility, so and costs and quality. So the process strategy also has some long-term effects on each of these: efficiency and production flexibility, and also the costs and the quality of our product. So the process strategy is very important, determines each of these important points and it states them clearly. So let's now go on and discuss the process strategies that are available. So there are four basic strategies. One, process focus, and there is repetitive focus, product focus, and mass customization. We got to go through each one of these and discuss exactly what are the differences between those and how do we go through each of them and why do we choose for certain products certain strategies, and we're gonna exactly go through why is that. And within these basic strategies are many ways for implementation. And so here we see we have process, volume, and variety. So now these are the three variables that we have. We have the process, the volume, and the variability. So we can see on the y-axis the variety, sorry, which is basically the flexibility. So variety is the flexibility of the product. So down on the axis, we can see that there are some changes in the attributes, such as grade, quality, size, thickness. And basically, these changes are very small and it requires long runs only. So not short runs, it requires long runs. And what is a run basically? Basically, a run is just how long do you keep producing the same thing, for how long do you do that. So if it's a long run, so you're gonna keep producing the same product. So you're gonna keep producing the same product for a long time, and this is a long run. So for example, you're gonna produce the same product for 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days, or for example 12 hours. So these are long runs. You're gonna produce some specific products in the long run, and then there are some changes. So as you go up in the axis of variety, there are some changes in the modules. These are modest runs. So modest runs can change. Let's say for 3 hours we produce a specific product. So produce, for example, a certain brand of a car. For example, for 3 runs we're gonna produce Land Rover, or and the upcoming runs we're gonna produce Jaguar cars, for example, or we're gonna produce a certain type. Let's say we're gonna produce leads of a certain uh, of a certain taste, and so on. So these are modest runs that are gonna go for example 3 to 5 hours. And then we have high variety, which is one or few units per run. So each run we're gonna produce a different unit. So unit that's very differentiable than other units, and that's basically high variety. And then we have on the x-axis is the volume. So low volume is basically we're not producing a lot of quantities. Repetitive process is just producing medium amount of volume. So and then there is high volume. So we're producing mass for the masses, and now we're gonna go on each and every process strategy. So first, our first process strategy is process focus. So what is process focus? Process focus is basically a high variety strategy. So we're gonna produce one or few units per run. So per run in the our factory. So a factory will have some runs, and each run we're gonna produce just one or few units. So one or few units, let's say one type of one car which is Range Rover, or other car which is a Jaguar. So we're gonna produce two Jaguars, then two Land Rovers, and then we're gonna produce also Mazda, three Mazdas. So few units or even one unit per run, and this is very high variety. We are changing the production every unit or few units, and the volume is low. So the volume is low. So this could be basically for brands. This could be um, more suitable for brands, basically because they are low volume and they have high variety. So some brands have very high variety, and that's one example where I mentioned cars. I could say also um, in hospitals. So in hospitals, the operation room, you could say it's a low volume and high variety. So operation room in the operation room happens a lot of processes. And so let's say, for example, restaurants. So some restaurants are low volume and have a high variety. So let's say high-end restaurants. And then yeah, so it's most suitable for projects, job shops, which are basically few units per run or one unit per run. These are job shops called. And then we have, yeah, so that's basically the process focus. We are doing low volume and high variety, and this usually are more expensive, so, since we are doing very few of them, and there is a high variety for each unit, which basically uh, um, increases the cost, and therefore the end cost for us. So, and then we have the repetitive strategy. So the repetitive strategy is, you could say, has a repetitive process. Okay, so the process is repetitive. It's not very mass produced like high volume, like very big companies that produce for the whole world. Okay, let's say they are producing a lot, but not too much. So a good example is automobiles, like maybe not high-end automobiles. Let's say automobiles that are a bit more, let's say, economical. So, for example, Nissan. So Nissan is an example of a repetitive process, our first example, which is the Harley Davidson company. It is an example of a repetitive process. So there are some changes in the modules. Uh, yeah, so some changes in the modules, and it's not like minor changes like in attributes. They are major changes in the modules, and they are repetitive. Okay, so they happen frequently, more than the process focus, but less than the customization that we're going to talk about, and less than the product focus. So, and our example, as we said, Harry Davidson is an example of a repetitive task. And we could say that the operation room is more of a repetitive than a low volume, because in the operation room is gonna be basically utilized mostly, if not 24 hours, gonna be at least 12 hours of the day, and that's relatively high volume, not very high volume, but relatively high volume. And there are gonna be some changes in the module. So for each operation that's gonna happen, we're gonna need different tools and equipment. Each doctor will need different tools, so we need to change. Like sometimes major change. So they're not just minor change the attributes. They're gonna be major change. Sometimes you're gonna need blood, new blood, and etc. So other things for major like accidents, stuff like that. And so this is for the repetitive strategy. And then we move on to mass customization. So mass customization is basically you can get an example of say say Microsoft or let's say HP. Okay, let's say HP. Now HP is we know it is a laptop producing company. They have also some printers. They have different products, and they produce to the masses. They produce a lot of laptops. They produce a lot of printers. They produce a lot of things, and each printer is highly customizable. There are very different customizations to each product, and so yeah, so each product has have different customizations and have different um, you know different varieties. So let's say for our example now, a laptop has very high variety. There are many different attributes. There are the attribute of size, the attribute of let's say we want to change the size of the screen, we want to change the capacity, the battery capacity, we want to change the type of the keyboard, the touchpad, if it has a touch screen or not. So there are many different speakers, many different attributes that we can change, and so it's very high variety, but also it's very high volume, and it's very it's not easy to achieve, as is difficult. But an example of it maybe it could be grocery stores. This is one example of mass customization. So and Dell computers is an example. HP computers is an example. Most computer companies are an example of this. Also printers. Let's say printers, they are relatively customizable. Let's say mobile phone, mobile phone companies. So Samsung, Apple. These companies are all examples of mass customization. And it's a very profitable thing, but it's also difficult. And so now moving on to the product focus. So the product focus is also a high volume strategy, but it has very little changes in attributes, and that's basically an example of something that we mostly see we mostly see in major products that are mass produced for basically the globe for everyone. So let's say one example is Lee's, or other example is chocolate producers like Hershey. Here we have example of Frito-Lay. And there are many different examples. So and so commercial baked goods. It's a high volume and very little changes in the attributes. So how would you change a baked good? You cannot have a lot of variety in it. So there's very little variety. You're gonna make goods. Okay, maybe you add croissant with cheese. You have croissant with cheese. Then you have croissant with chocolate. Croissant without any additives. So these are some little changes attributes, not major changes like when we do repetitive strategy. For example, motorcycles will have some changes like, for example, the engine, the capacity of its fuel, the tires. These are some changes in the modules, but not high variety like I'm changing the whole product entirely, no, like the mass customization of the process focus. But in the product focus, no, we're doing very small changes. So in for example, in chips you can have, for example, very little changes in the taste, in the like there are different tastes for there is the spicy one, there is the regular chips, there is vinegar, salt, different types of chips. So this is the product focus. And then we have steel, glass, beer. These are all examples of product focus. And then there are, so these are the main process strategies that we are talking about and focusing on. And there are some poor strategies that are um, For example, can be both fixed and variable costs are high. So a poor strategy can be having low volume, little changes in attributes, and this is like a fixed and variable costs. So it's a fixed product and it has very variable costs, and this is basically a poor strategy. If you want to have a fixed product, you're going to produce it in the masses in order for it to succeed. If you have a fixed product and you producing low volume, then you are setting yourself for failure because this is a poor strategy. Because the costs are gonna be variable. Sometimes you're gonna get a lot of demand, sometimes you're gonna get none at all, so no demand. And so this is a poor strategy. And these are basically the strategies that we can use in our process management. Yeah. And so, as you said, this is just goes over again our strategies. So we have the process focus. Facilities are organized around specific activities or processes. General purpose equipment are and skilled personnel. So it has a general purpose equipment, not very specialized equipment, since we said we have a lot of variety, and has also a lot of skilled personnel, skilled people need to manage these general purpose equipments, since they are not very typical or not just run it and keep it. So there are gonna be variety. So they're gonna be also variety in in running them and maybe maintaining them, making sure it's working perfectly. So that's why we need skilled people to run these. And as we said, the facilities are organized around specific activities or processes. So high degree of product flexibility. That's important. We need flexibility and process focus. Okay, and also the product flows may be considerably may vary. Okay, so the flow may vary, making planning and scheduling a challenge. So here maybe planning and scheduling could be challenging since the demand could be variable. That's something that could make this type of strategy challenging, but also it could be very profitable if done correctly. And then, so as you can see, this is an illustration. So process focus is low volume, high variety, and intermittent process. So, and it has many inputs. So, for example, here, it turns out that the operation room and the surgery rooms have many inputs, and it's called considered a process focus. Okay, so yeah, so it's considered a process focus. So yeah, it has many departments and many routings. So it goes, and then there are also many different outputs, uniquely treated patients, and yeah, so there are, it's high volume, low volume, but also it has high variety because we have different people, different patients, different, you know, uniquely treated patients. So each patient has his own problems, his own issues, and that's basically why the operation room is a process focus. Okay, so now I know the operation room is a process focus, and then we have the repetitive focus. This is the other strategy, which is medium volume, and then also also some changes in the modulus. So in the repetitive focus, facilities are often organized as assembly lines. So we have assembly lines for repetitive focus. For our example, the motorcycles producing company, they have assembly lines. And so and it's characterized by modulus with parts and assemblies made previously. So, and they can be combined for many output options. So there is variety. It's not like, okay, it's an assembly line, but it's not something that's fixed, like, for example, mass customization or other varieties. So So it has flexibility, but not a lot of flexibility. So less flexibility than process focused facilities, but more efficient. So it has less flexibility than process focused, but is an efficient process strategy. So our example, the motorcycles, the repetitive focus, or called modular, to Harley Davidson. So the raw materials and modules inputs, they are raw materials and inputs that are put in engines, let's say the materials needed for the outer parts of the motorcycle, the tires, the let's say the fuel tanks, all of these are the raw materials that are needed for a motorcycle. So, but we don't have one type of engine or one type of wheel. We have multiple engines, multiple wheel modulus, and they all go in the process. And then so we have a few modules, okay, but we have multiple. So not too many, but we have multiple, and then they all go combined for many outputs. And yeah, so and now we have the product focus. Now the product focus is, as we said, it's high volume but low variety of products, and this is examples in you know um, food production, consumer production, consumer items production. These are all examples of product focus. Now, there are long continuous production runs. These enable efficient processes. Maybe they do not require a lot of maintenance since it's just continuous production that runs and enables efficient processes. And then they typically have a high but fixed cost. So they have a high cost, but also a fixed one. So there is a low variable cost. We usually can predict the cost for each quarter and each time we need to produce a product. So and generally require less skilled labor since the machines are not very customizable, and that's why in the more for low variety types, sorry, in the more variety types, or let's say in the process focus, for example, it is will need more skilled labor, and also in the repetitive, it will need some skilled labor also because also it has variety, and so yeah, a product focus, an example of it, chips companies has high volume, low variety, and continuous process. So it has a few inputs, like for example, for chips, it has corn, potatoes, water, seasoning, and then there are some output variations, but not many variations. So in size, shape, and packaging. So there are different packages for each potato chips. And our other strategy is mass customization, and it's a rapid, so low cost production of goods. So it's a low cost mass customization, and it's rapid, very fast. It produces goods and services to satisfy increasingly unique customer designs. So yeah, and it combines the flexibility of a process focus with the efficiency of a product focus. So it takes the best of the two worlds, mass customization, and that's why we see that the mass customization companies are one among the most successful and that has the high market volume. Like for example, as we said, Microsoft, Apple, Dell, HP, these have high market share, and they basically take a lot of the market since they are really for the masses and they are really customizable and very flexible. And as we said, laptops. So it has many parts and component inputs. Okay, and these include chips, hard drives, software, cases, many different parts and components. And so I have many modules, and then they have also many outputs. So it's like a very wide range of inputs and outputs put together to provide this customization. Yeah. So, and in order to make it work, we also need to have we should have imaginative product design, okay, and flexible process design. Okay, so we have flexibility and imaginativity. So it combines product design and the process design all together, and it has a tightly controlled inventory management. Okay, so it's the inventory is controlled, and it has digitized communication. It tracks orders and materials, so it's important to keep a track of the orders and the materials. And of course, we're gonna take advantage of the digital world. Everyone takes advantage of this digital, say, blessing that we have, that we can keep track of orders, materials, and everything, labor, and all of these things all at once and done by a computer. And this is very important to have. We cannot just rely on paper or people to keep track of orders or material, or our company is gonna basically fail. And so we also need to make sure we have responsive partners in the supply chain. Since we have the need of different materials, so we need to have responsive partners that responds to customers' demand and basically our demand in general. And so this is overall conversion of the processes. We said so the process focus, the repetitive focus, the product focus, and the mass customization. These are the four major processes and strategies for mass production. If you can, if you want to stop the video, you can read about this. So as you said, process focus, small quantity and large variety of products, broadly skilled operations, instructions for each job, and high inventory. And then we have repetitive focus, long runs, which include a standardized product from modules, and a moderately trained employees. This is repetitive focus. So we don't need highly skilled employees, but still need to moderately trained employees because we have some form of variety. And then we have a few changes in the instructions, okay, and low inventory. So we don't need a lot of inventory because it depends on the demand. When we need it, we're gonna buy it. For the process focused, we have high inventory because we gonna produce very a lot of varieties, and so we need high inventory of the different parts and materials needed for each variety of a product. And then the product focus has large quantity and small variety of products. Less broadly skilled operations or operators is the product focus. Standardized job instructions, no changes in the job instructions, just the standard job instructions, and it has very low inventory. And for mass customization, it has large quantity and large variety of products. It has flexible operations since we have variety, and it has custom orders requiring many job instructions. So basically, we can compare it to process focus, but not really, because the process focus is really it has a very high variety. So maybe each unit we're gonna change the production. So here it requires many job instructions. So it will have a sort of a variety comparable to the process focus, and then um, it has low inventory relative to the value of the product. So it's very, since it's mass customization. First of all, we're gonna have a large inventory, but relative to the value of the product is gonna be a low inventory. Okay, so the only one that will need a high inventory is the process focus. Okay, and the others are basically just low inventory. The repetitive focus, product focus, and mass customization just require low inventory. But for the mass customization, we said we'll need highly responsive partners to provide us with the materials when needed. So this is also continued. So let's continue our conversion. So for the process focus, we have finished goods that are made to order and not stored. Okay, so the goods are finished and are made to order and not to be stored, immediately delivered. The scheduling is a bit complex for the product process focus. Okay, since we are producing different units depending on the demand, and whenever they are ordered, we just produce it and sell it. For that, the scheduling is complex. And then for the costs, they are fixed cost and low. And sometimes the variability of the cost is high. So yes, the costs are fixed and low, but the variability is high. And then we have for the repetitive focus, the finished goods are made to frequent forecasts. So if we have a forecast of for a specific month or year for a high forecast, we are forecasting that we're gonna have more products, or we're gonna need more products the upcoming, for example, quarter or the upcoming month. Then we're gonna basically produce finished goods to meet these forecasts. And then for 6, we have scheduling. The scheduling is a routine. Okay, so it's not a very complex task, not as complex as the process focus. And then the costs are fixed, and they depend on the flexibility of the facility. And then for the product focus, finished goods are made to a forecast and are stored. So they are made based on the forecast and also are made to be stored in the product focus. Okay, and the scheduling is just routine work. It has fixed cost and high. The fixed costs are high, and the variable costs are low. So less variability, high fixed cost. And for mass customization, we have finished goods and built to order, so BTO. The goods are built to order. So when someone orders something, a product, we build it to him and we give it to him. Or when there is a specific demand of a specific product, we forecast that there is a specific demand, so we build that product. And then the scheduling is sophisticated and it accommodates custom orders. So sophisticated scheduling accommodating custom orders, but it has fixed costs that tend to be high and variable costs that tend to be low. So less variable costs and more fixed costs. So as for the costs, for the product focus and mass customization, the costs are usually fixed since it's high volume, so we can predict the costs. As for the repetitive focus, is dependent. It depends on the flexibility of the facility and also the forecast and stuff like that. So it's less fixed than the mass customization and product focus, uh, but more predictable than the process focus. The process focus has the most variable costs, and the scheduling is mostly routine for repetitive and product focus, and it's more complex for the process focus and also the mass customization. And as for the products, mostly the repetitive focus and the product focus are made based on demand and forecast, and the mass customization is built to order, and process focus is finished goods. Okay, and so you can see here the crossover chart example to evaluate 3 different accounting software products. Okay, so software A, total fixed cost. So this is an example of different softwares. Software A, so it has a total fixed cost of $200,000, and the dollars required per accounting report is $60. Then we have software B, $300,000. The dollars required per accounting report are $25, and then software C, $400,000. And the dollars required are $10 per accounting reports. And so we have our crossover chart here. So I think we can stop here. I think we covered all of our strategies, the different strategies. That was our main focus in this video. The covered the different types of strategies: the process focus, the repetitive focus, the product focus, and the mass customization. And went through different examples of these products and when they be used, and how are these products helpful for us to identify and be able to use according to our product and our strategy that we want to use. And so thank you for watching. I hope you benefited from this video.